I remember being on a 120-foot yacht, and it was my friend's dad. And I asked him, I said, "Hey man, like, what do you do?" That's like the whole
Mhm.
Daniel Mack thing. It's like, what do you do for a living, right? And he's like, "Well, I'm an investor." I was like, "Okay." He did real estate. And I asked another guy, and he was like, "Well, dude, I'm an attorney, but I made all my money through investing." I was like, investing in businesses, investing in myself, and investing in real estate. After that, that was game over. That's all I wanted. And I found a real estate company. It was Avance. They were doing short-term rental investing, and I joined as a product manager. So I helped them scale from 200 units all the way up to 1,000 plus by basically building out the internal tools they needed to scale.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Report. Today is my 30th birthday, and we are live in the studio, and we got a very special guest. We got a young, up-and-coming real estate investor who's hosting a conference here in San Diego next month, which I will be speaking at. I got my man, Patryk Swietek. Patryk, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, man. Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you taking the time to take the drive down here and come on. Very inspired with your story and just everything that you've been doing just over the last couple of years. I think you're inspiring a lot of people behind you that you probably don't even realize.
Dude, thank you so much. It almost feels like imposter syndrome, right? Like you just get to this level of success and you think that it feels like there's so much more to go, but like you have to start being grateful and have gratitude for where you are. I think that's a big thing,
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a balance between, staying hungry and also staying humble and being willing to learn all the lessons that life will teach you along the way.
100%. I think that's where me and you resonate a lot. I think we're both kind of trying to level up, but also be grateful for where we are and like happy with what we've accomplished so far. So
absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. We were at lunch today. The team took me out to lunch for my birthday at this spot here in Little Italy called Morning Glory. And I had been there. We were there like 7 or 8 months ago at Morning Glory. That was the last time we went to lunch there. And I remember rushing out of lunch early so I could jump on your podcast. And I thought today when we were like rushing out of lunch, we're like, hey, what are the chances? Now Patryk's on our podcast.
Hey, look, this is divine. This is divine, timing, right? This just happened for a reason. So like we're here. This is it.
I love it. So anyways, man, why don't you, and I'm curious because I don't know your full story. So tell me, like, what were you doing before real estate investing and how did you transition into it?
Good question, man. I mean, I've always been very entrepreneurial. I started when I was like really 12. Like I've been mowing people's lawns, getting that money. Everyone's got that little story, their entrepreneurial story of how they sold candy or did all this. Mine was lawn mowing and snow plowing because we have snow in Chicago where I grew up. And that was kind of the beginning of everything. I always saw my parents doing it. And so that was kind of inspiring to me, seeing that like they were working so hard being entrepreneurs, but they never delegated. They just kind of did, like my dad was a one-man show, but definitely inspired me to start looking at like, hey, maybe I should challenge the status quo. Maybe I shouldn't do things the same way everyone else does. And I felt that when I was in school, like I'm a little different. Like this is weird. At 14, I started my first official company. I was making $40,000 a year, pretty much giving game server space to people worldwide. I had 15 staffers, over 500 customers. Like it was like the first experience where I started making real world money.
What kind of game service?
So game servers. So like a lot of times when you're a gamer, you need to have a game server so that you don't have lag. And so I provided that game server to people. It started off really because I was wanting a server without lag. And then people started saying, well, I want one too. And I started dividing my server space up and giving them a portion of it so that it could pay for my server. So I could play for free. It was like house hacking, but for game servers.
I love that. So you don't need to be co-located in order to share the server.
Exactly.
Interesting. I didn't know that. All those years when I was a kid playing Call of Duty, I used to play Madden as well growing up.
Yeah.
I had no idea that you could leverage servers remotely.
Yeah, you can. And you can have your own dedicated servers. I think that's the key thing, especially with games like Minecraft, League of Legends, like a lot of computer games. You could do that kind of stuff.
So how much were people paying you for that?
I mean, it varied. It varied between like $30 a month to upwards of $500 a month. Like it's different customers have different needs, right? But yeah, it was good money for the time. I thought it was crazy to me at the time. That's a lot of money for a 15-year-old. It's like I felt top of the world. And it's crazy is transitioning when I went to, get into colleges, right? I thought, wow, I have real world business experience. Like Cornell's going to want me. Harvard's going to want me. Everyone's going to want me. Nobody wanted me. I had horrible grades. I didn't do well in school. I just did what I did at home, and I didn't get into any school. So
No schools at all.
one school,
Which one?
DePaul, which is a local school that not a lot of people know about.
Where's that one located?
That's Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I decided to go community college route. Went to community college, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to do really well. Got a 4.0. Got into the school that rejected me straight off, and I got into their top 10 business program. So I got there, and I was like, okay, this is what success is, right? Like getting into the programs, doing the thing. But I still had a little bit of an itch for the entrepreneurial bug. I just couldn't let it go. I just still had it. And so I started a bunch of companies. But one of the companies that was successful was Menu 3. Menu 3, we had a staff of 10 people. We raised venture capital. And I was in college when we raised money for this startup where we put augmented reality menus on the table in front of you when you go to a restaurant. Because a lot of times you don't know the portion size going into that restaurant, and you don't know what the ingredient structure is looking like. So we created this advanced technology that allowed you to see the percentage of ingredients inside of the food pretty much.
Did you actually graduate from college?
I did.
Okay.
I graduated.
And then you started the companies after?
No, it was during college.
Okay.
During college. Right afterwards, I didn't have any plans to get into the space, and I just kept doing what I was doing. Didn't work out. I was working, I decided to just get a W-2 job afterwards after it didn't work out.
When you went to college though, did you have like some sort of outlook or idea of like kind of the path you wanted to go down, or were you just kind of going to college because you were going through the motions?
I was just going through the motions, man. I don't know if you can relate to that. Like, I don't know. I mean, I was a 20-year-old kid. I don't know what I wanted to do. It's like, I wanted just to create something. I want to create something bigger than me. And I had that urge, and I knew I had it, but I just didn't know what it was.
I can relate to your story. You just got into the real estate much younger age than I did. But for me, when I went to college and I studied economics, I didn't get into a lot of schools. My grades weren't that great in high school, but I had pretty high SAT scores. Like, it wasn't that I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't like the classwork. I was bored of it. I wasn't into it. But I went to college, studied economics, and I was selling cell phones at the mall. My first 2 years of college, I did very well. I enjoyed it. And then some of my coworkers that were really good at sales, they went on to sell cars, and they were like, dude, come over here and sell cars. You'll make way more money. So I was like slanging Nissans here at the Nissan dealership in San Diego while I was going to college. I was bringing in pretty good money. And so I thought, man, I love sales. I think I'm pretty good at it. I want to sell commercial real estate when I get out of college. And so that was kind of my vision. Meanwhile, I'm going to school studying economics. But, for sales positions, you don't need to go to college. You don't need a bachelor's degree. And then I fell into this whole air traffic control thing for 11 years. So I can relate to your story. But the cool thing about you is you just got into the real estate side much, much sooner than I did.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean,
what was it that got you in the real estate?
So, this company didn't work out. Being entrepreneurial, like, you're going to get a lot of failures. I had around 5, 6 under my belt at that point. I thought entrepreneurship was easy. My first one was a big hit, and it's like, not really. You start failing a lot more. And I got to the point where I had to get a W-2 job. So knew I wanted to get into real estate at this point. So at this point, I saw people within my circles, and I remember being on a 120-foot yacht, and it was my friend's dad. And I asked him, I said, hey man, like, what do you do? That's like the whole Daniel Mack thing. It's like, what do you do for a living, right? And he's like, well, I'm an investor. I was like, okay. He did real estate. And I asked another guy, and he was like, well, dude, I'm an attorney, but I made all my money through investing. I was like, investing in businesses, investing in myself, and investing in real estate. After that was game over. That's all I wanted. Those 3 things: investing in myself, investing in businesses, or investing in real estate. And I found a real estate company. It was Avance. They were doing short-term rental investing, and I joined as a product manager. So I helped them scale from 200 units all the way up to 1,000 plus by basically building out the internal tools they needed to scale. Wow. That was my first pretty much in the short-term rental space in 2019.
What does Avance do?
Avance, for the people that don't know, They do short-term rental arbitrage. So they get a house for a lease for like $2,000, for example, and then they make more money on top of that through short-term rental investing. They'll take a long-term lease and make more money. And that was their whole model.
Sonder, do they do that as well?
They do that similar, but they do more, from my experience, they do like bigger buildings. Like they'll do like condos, and just like buy a big building and just like multifamily, and they'll just like segment out the condos. And that's kind of how they do it. Or sorry, not buy, they rent the whole building. They do that.
So what did you learn at Avance and like what inspired you to get out on your own and start buying them?
Yeah. So I think the big pivotal moment there was when I saw in West Coast, Palm Springs is a huge destination for short-term rental. When I saw that they were able to make the whole lease payment for the whole year in those 3 weeks, 2 weeks of Coachella, 1 week of Stagecoach, full year lease paid off, I was like, wow. That was like, everything else is straight profit. Like, that is crazy to me. And so that was kind of like the inspirational point.
I love that, man. So tell me about the first deal that you did and where did you get the capital for that?
If you are a busy professional and don't have time to invest in real estate but still want to participate in the passive income and tax benefits, my team, Summers Capital, is buying a lot of boutique hotels right now. We source the deals, we renovate the properties, and we even do all the day-to-day management, making it truly hands-off for our investors. If you want to learn more to see if we can help you, go to summerscapital.com/invest to book a call with our team. Again, that's summerscapital.com/invest. Now back to the show.
Yeah. So I think before the first deal happened, I think it's important to know like what happened after that. You know, it's like I pretty much after that whole section, like I had to leave. I got fired or laid off because COVID happened, laid off, the whole thing. And then I lost 3 jobs in 1 year. 3 jobs in 1 year. I think that might be a world record somewhere. Somebody can check.
So it was Avance and then a couple other, all in the same year?
In the same year.
Wow.
And I got fired. I was a shitty employee. And I remember at the job that I kept the longest, I remember sitting at that job and like I had to work on Christmas. I remember having to work on Christmas Eve and I couldn't go back to my family because I didn't have PTO. Other people were taking PTO and I had to cover for them. And I was in the office till 7 p.m. on Christmas Eve. And I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Dude, I can resonate with that because like literally every job I had up until the air traffic control was all retail. So you're working a lot of nights and weekends, holidays, you know, those are big sales days, right? And then with the air traffic control, it's seniority based. And so, you know, until you're 15 years in, you're going to get the worst of the worst schedules that no one wants to bid. So, you know, you're working all the weekends, you're working all the nights, holidays, people are out enjoying. I remember, you know, friends would be out barbecuing for the holidays, doing cool stuff. And I would be working airplanes. And I was just thinking like, man, like it's going to take me 15 years to get the seniority to have some decent days off, you know? So I can totally relate to that.
That's crazy. And we think, and when we're in the system like that, it's hard to break free because you don't see anybody in your circle that's doing that. That's why people that are listening to these kind of podcasts that are like educating themselves and making themselves better, they're in a better position because that's what I did. I started listening to podcasts. I started joining communities, started seeing other people. I was in a slump. I was in a very dark place, you know? And so like I needed any kind of inspiration that I needed. And I'll be honest, this is the first time saying this publicly, but
say it.
Say first time here, but I remember the big pivotal moment was when I lost those 3 jobs. I lost my identity. I actually was like, who am I? Am I not valuable in this workspace and like workforce? Like I thought I was the shittiest employee ever. I was like, dude, maybe I'm just like a shitty person. Maybe I just can't make it. And I had all these dark thoughts and I was in a slump and I called my mom and I was on the phone with my mom crying. And I don't remember the last time I cried. I was at such a low point where I was like, dude, if I don't, because I couldn't find another job. It was my 4th try to find a job. And everyone kept rejecting me. And I was like, dude, like I'm a nobody. Like, what am I doing here? I don't deserve to be in LA. I got to go move back with my parents. And I had 2 weeks to find a job and I couldn't. And last minute I found a job. I just found something. paying like pennies on the dollar of what I think I'm worth. But I was like, you know what? It's going to get me through this slump.
And how old were you when you were going through this?
24.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, man, because I think, like, looking back now, I feel like society, people's parents, families, friends, a lot of them tend to put a lot of pressure on kids to go to school and get good grades and go out and get a job that they're into, a career. And at any point, if you kind of fall off the path, whether it's, in the school system, you're not getting good grades, or maybe you just don't find the job that you're like really passionate about. And then they feel like a failure. They feel like they're a letdown or letting their parents down. And it's a shame because, at that age, 24 years old, it's like you're really still trying to find yourself.
Right.
It's not necessarily that you can't do it. It's just that you're not into whatever is in front of you.
Yeah.
And you just haven't necessarily found your path yet.
What's also really hard is when you start seeing people on TikTok and whatever, everywhere, Instagram, flaunting their money and talking about all this money they made and all this stuff. And you're like, you feel even worse about yourself. You feel worse. Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, maybe even listening to this, like you might think, oh wow, like I can't relate to that because I'm a nobody. I'm not there. But it's like people have to find inspiration in that and like know that these people they probably started at the same position you were at in a lot of ways. And I want people to know that. I think that's really important.
It's so important.
Yeah.
I think everyone, regardless of where they are, like even the Grant Cardones of the world, like everyone started, unless they inherited a bunch of money. And I believe like 85 or 90% of like all millionaires didn't inherit any money. Yeah. They all started from the same place. Everyone started with that first real estate deal. Everyone started with that first 100,000, that first million. Right. And so it's important to remember. And I think it's like you said, it's easy to get sidetracked, especially watching social media. It's like a highlight reel for everyone out there. Everyone puts their wins out there. Not a lot of folks put the losses out there.
That's so true. And you learn from the losses, right? So I think that's why us being vulnerable here is like sometimes frowned upon, but like the fact that we're doing it because it's truthfully like that's how you learn. But there are also good parts. So like, let's go into the good parts, right? Like once you go through that adversity, 2021, I started joining these communities and these groups and started listening to these podcasts. And I was like, you know what? Like every limiting belief I had was disrupted. I was like, young people can buy real estate. You don't have to be local to buy real estate. I realized that. You don't have to spend 30 years at your job to make it in life. It was like all these big realizations. And I just bought my first property, sight unseen, 2,000 miles away in Smoky Mountains, Tennessee.
Wow.
That's my first property. And I sight unseen first real estate transaction I've ever done, dumped all of my money into this asset. And I was like, I'm just going to take a bet on me for once. So
I love that. So what kind of deal was it in the Smokies? How many bedrooms?
It's a studio.
A studio
cabin. It was $306,000. 10% down is $30,600. All in $40,000. And my mom nearly fainted when I told her that I bought a studio for that much money. But what I knew the numbers. And I think you could always stick to your numbers because the numbers told the story. I knew that property made $33,000 that year, but I knew I could make $60,000. And I did. I doubled that. And I strictly did it through better marketing and better pricing.
Yeah.
Better systems.
That hits the 20% rule.
It's 20%.
Yeah. What is the 20% rule?
So, oh my God, you're putting me on the spot. Wasn't the 20% rule where like your percent, how much you make every year, your gross has to be a percent of the purchase, right?
Yeah, basically like all in costs. So like generally speaking, it's just like quick way to like analyze a short-term rental deal. And obviously that number is going to depend on a lot of other factors, but just like quick back of the napkin math, it's like, okay, purchase price plus your furnishing costs, all in, let's just say for simple math, you're $300,000, right?
Yeah.
You buy it for $270,000, you put in $30,000 of furnishing, you're all in for $300,000.
Oh, got it.
The 20% rule just says your expected or your projected gross revenue annually should be 20% of that $300,000, which would be $60,000 a year. I'm saying with your deal, it basically meets that.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I know there's a lot of rules, like you can follow like these rules of thumb, and that one I haven't particularly.
But it meets that. So how did that experience go for you?
It went well. I think that just gave me the confidence.
Yeah.
That gave me the confidence, and 4 months later, I quit my job. 2022, January 2022, I quit my job.
Wow.
Today at the time of this recording, it's, what is it, August of the next year. I have 30 properties. 6 of them I own. And I have another property management company under contract right now. And so that is like the growth that happened in that year, in a year to year and a half, is incredible. I can't even like fathom the fact that it happened, but people are only focused on that part. They don't look at the full story of like, what about all those years of failing? And since I was 14 years old, I've been doing business and scaling teams and like building infrastructure. And finally, I got the opportunity to like prove my skills, right? And I think that is like what people are looking for as well, like that kind of pivotal moment.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there, man.
Yeah.
So close on the first deal out in the Smokies.
Right.
And where is the majority of these 30 listings located?
So these are in Joshua Tree National Park.
And you still have the deal in the Smokies?
No, I sold it.
Okay.
So yeah.
So how did you go from the Smokies and then kind of pivot over to Joshua Tree? Like, how did that come to fruition?
So I met this. So when I had my first deal, they gave me a sense of legitimacy, and I could go up to people and tell them like, "Hey, I'm doing real estate. Like, this is a real thing." And so when I had the legitimacy, I actually met a guy through a networking, and like it was more like a friendly meetup. And his name is Josh, and he had something I didn't. He had capital, and he has flipping experience. He's flipped over 100 houses. He had 10 years of flipping experience. He was 30 years old. He started since he was 19.
Wow. Like,
very impressive guy. Didn't go to college, didn't do any of that. He saw what I was doing. He was like, I want to get into Airbnbs. And I told him, hey man, like I was doing STR Nation at the time. So we were doing meetups, monthly meetups. I was meeting everyone in the space. And I told him, I was like, hey man, like I have the connections out there. Like, let's just do it in Joshua Tree. It's nearby. It's a place where I understand more or less. And it's something that like he could use his contractors there as well, because he was doing it in the high desert as well. So we kind of went there. It was the easy way in. Started using our contractors and started doing the burster model. So I was putting
what's that?
Burster. Oh yeah. So burster model is basically BRRRR, which is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. Yeah.
And then instead of renting it out, you STR it out?
Yeah, STR out. Yeah.
Got
so
it.
that's what we do.
That's pretty good. I haven't heard that one before.
You haven't?
Burster.
Okay. Burster, like you're cold.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, so that was like the whole strategy we were doing. And we bought six properties together. 6 going on. We have 2 more that we're probably going to work on. So it's probably going to be closer to 8. But we did that. And so we started buying because we knew owning real estate was the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing we realized is there's 2 forms of capital or money that you could make in real estate. And a lot of people are focused on the passive. People are always talking about passive. I believe that when you're first starting out, like when you're young, you should be focused more on the active. Because what happened was all of his money was tied up. I didn't use my money. I used his money to buy these deals. And I found the deals and I did all of the work for them. That's kind of our arrangement. And then I basically told him, I was like, dude, we need to focus more on active capital. We can't just be parking our money and our money's just stuck there. And it's only making an X amount of return. Like when you flip houses, that's an active way of making money. Wholesaling houses, active way of making money. So we said, why not just start co-hosting? And that's where the co-hosting side started coming.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of people, when they get into real estate, they always talk about being passive, doing it for the financial freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's not necessarily going to give you the highest return. So I always say it depends on how much time you have. And so you could be young, but you could also be a young doctor or a young attorney or business owner to where your time is best suited bringing in money through your career or your business, and then parking it passively with investors. That's cool. But
and that's exactly what you guys do at Summers Capital, right?
Yes.
You guys raise that money.
But for the active folks, it's like, hey, if you're trying to do this full time, or maybe you're in a W-2 and you're like, you eventually want to get out of it and be a full-time real estate investor, you're not going to create higher returns than you would going out there and buying deals at a discount, getting your hands dirty, forcing appreciation, and being an operator.
Exactly that. And I think people are too focused. If they have the time, they think that dumping their money in real estate and then waiting is going to do their thing. And then could, but like if you
Mhm.
want to do it faster, the active side, like you said, doing the blood, sweat, and tears, sweat equity is where you got to
Yeah.
go.
And then back to your point, another thing that I love about your model is, you're burning these properties. So not only are you getting additional cash flow for the STR,
Mhm.
but you're burning these properties. And so you're adding value. Now I always
Mhm.
say like, one of the most challenging ways to build a real estate portfolio is just to buy stuff that's turnkey,
Mhm.
put 20% down, and now that money is trapped and you can't recycle that money and continue
Right.
to build your portfolio. So I always say buy at a discount, buy something to where you could add tremendous value, and then you can refi your money out and then redeploy that into more assets. It's just a much more effective way
Right.
to build your portfolio. So I love that you're doing that. With the co-host and stuff, you guys are co-hosting about 30 deals right now. You guys bought
30 with the ones we own.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys bought a property management company recently.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So a lot of people will say, okay, I'm all about leverage. I want to do the least amount of effort for the most impact. And what I mean by that is like when I say effort, I mean it more so like I want to do it once. I want to have amplified results.
Mhm.
So how can I get amplified results through co-hosting? I can build a co-hosting business from scratch, right? Or I can buy a company and then skip steps. So I was like, I'm skipping steps. I'm not going down the path that everyone else wants me to take with, building it up from scratch. And I was like, I'm just going to buy a property management company, have all the infrastructure in place, and I can leverage that brand and all that to get more listings. And that's exactly what we did. We did that. I started getting a ton of leads and we started filtering through, and we've gotten like probably 15 leads, 15 properties that we've onboarded since. We started with 14. We let go of a few, 15, 16, something like that. Brought our own in. And now, like, I'm not even managing my own properties because what I did was I used the resources across the whole portfolio, the management company, to manage my own properties. And so having that in-house is actually really beneficial because now you can just like, it's so easy to do a deal in Joshua Tree. Because for me, I just see a deal. I'm like, all right, we'll get it. We'll take it down. We already have the contractors. We already have everybody in place from the Burrs, right?
Mhm.
We already have the management company. Like, let's just like, we just lock down the deal and then the team takes it from there. And it's just so easy. And then now we're buying real estate and creating wealth with systems in-house to allow us to do that.
How much did you pay for the property management company, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. So that's one thing I can't say.
Yeah.
But I will say how we structured the deal. So the way we structured the deal is we paid 50% upfront and we seller financed the on the back end. So that's pretty much 50%. And the way we valued the company is we valued it based on 1 to 1.5x of the gross revenue. That's the way we structured it. Now, it's also very common to structure it between 2 to 5x of EBITDA. That's a popular way of doing it. The way that we structured with him was a little different.
Now, when you say the annual gross revenue 1 to 1.5x, you're talking the gross revenue of the property management company or the gross revenue that the portfolio is bringing in?
Good clarification. Yes, it's what the property management company
Got it.
bringing in.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that, man. You guys had a little seller carry.
We have a little
in addition
seller
to
carry.
that. Okay.
Yeah. And so the thing is like if the clients leave, because that's a big concern, right? The clients leave, you're buying the contract. So if the clients leave, really like they're making less money on the second portion because I want them to be aligned with us to try to keep these clients. I think that's another thing. The retention's like 30%, like 50%, right? 50% of the people leave.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get less money on their end for the second payment.
Got it.
So we kind of like made tiers of like what gross revenue we make, and
you're hedging your risk a little bit.
We're hedging our risk.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so since you took over, what was the feedback from the clients, and were there some that left?
Hey guys, real quick, the only way this podcast grows is if you guys share it and review the show. So if you do find value, if you could take 2 seconds and drop a 5-star on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it would mean the world to me. But more importantly, it will help us reach new audiences and help more people build wealth through real estate investing.
It was a tough situation, man. The property management company was being run. I mean, it could have been run a little bit better. The previous owners, they had a baby. They were kind of, they had a hotel project that they were working on. So they were just really not paying attention to it. And we came in and we saved pretty much every client. We were working 16-hour days in the beginning, saved every client, realized that we were working in the business. One of the area managers, like she got pregnant. And so now, or sorry, not got pregnant, gave birth. And so now she was out of commission. The other one left. But we were kind of like screwed almost. Like we're just kind of like sitting there like, it's on us now. And we brought in the virtual assistants. We built the whole infrastructure. And now I'm like hands off in the business. I don't think I've looked on Airbnb for the last like month and a half. I've not been contacting guests. I haven't been doing anything other than like client relations. I work on the business. I want to focus on the high level strategy. And that's where I spend my time, is marketing and pricing and that.
What does your team look like? I'm curious, because we have a in-house management team where we're managing boutique hotels and short-term rentals. We're in 10 markets now, and we have systems and processes, but everyone has a different way of kind of setting up their team. So I'm curious, how do you set up your team? What does it look like?
So our team is pretty much, we have 2 VAs in the AM shift, 2 VAs in the afternoon shift, and they cover between 6 a.m. to around 2 a.m. on weekends, and then 12 a.m. on weekdays. And they are communication VAs, and they have all the SOPs built out for how to deal with the front end of the guest, but they also do cleaning maintenance. They also do building out like brand tonality documents. Like they do SOPs, build outs. They write contracts for, like they do everything.
Wow.
They do everything. Like we are so hands off. And then we have the area manager that kind of takes care of everything that's going on in the area. If there's anything that needs to be like everything operationally, she takes care of. So if there's anything that she needs to step in or, in the area, like she will come in and do that. But then we also have an assistant area manager. So the assistant area manager, she just supports the area manager in everything that she's doing.
So the VAs are overseas, and the manager and the assistant manager are both local.
Yes.
So kind of more like boots on the ground, but also
Exactly.
the face when there's a conversation that needs to be had with the client.
Right. 100%.
Okay. That's pretty cool, man. And so with this current team that you have, how many more listings do you think you could scale to before you need to make more hires?
We could probably take on another, like because we're ready to onboard a lot of listings. We have around 10 that are waiting to get onboarded. So we're probably good for like another 10 to 20, probably 20.
Yeah. I always say like, at least from our experience, kind of building out the management arm, it's like, if you have 10, 15 listings or less, it's kind of a tough place to be because you don't really have the revenue to afford to like really hire a legit team. But then if you do hire like a team, it's like, well, then it makes more sense to scale it, because the same team that you can operate 15 listings with, you can operate 40 with.
Exactly.
And so I always say, like, if you're going to do it, try to scale up to 30, 40 listings as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
So you can justify having the team and that sort of thing. So I love that you're doing that. And then you mentioned before we started recording that you're looking at picking up another one, huh?
Yes, I'm looking at a second one. Freed up my time. It's kind of getting, when I get bored, I just look for the next thing, right? So this is the next thing. The next thing is, I'm in escrow right now. Fingers crossed it goes through. But either way, even if it doesn't go through, we definitely are going to be buying other property management companies. Like that's the next step.
How many listings in this next one? Ballpark.
35.
Okay, so you're going to basically go from 30 to 70 to 70.
Yeah.
I love that.
But also,
all in Joshua Tree?
I can't say.
Okay.
But all I can say is this management company has, the best part is they have really good marketing. They get 20 leads a week.
Wow.
So now, and they're not taking those leads. They're taking maybe 1% of them because they don't want to scale. But I want to scale. So I'm going to be taking those leads, and we're going to make it so that we just scale this thing to the next level. Like I'm buying opportunities. Like that's where I want to do. And honestly, I think that we can really take this to a few different markets.
Yeah. So I'm curious, we get probably 95% of all of our management leads just organically through the podcast or social media, or people that are in our network, come to our meetups and that sort of thing, and just kind of know what we do. And we're not like actively really, really trying to like grow that. We want to self-manage our own stuff as well. However, I'm curious because I've heard some pretty creative ways on how people get co-hosting leads, like what is your best method in your estimation?
So like I mentioned, I'm pretty much a leverage kind of person. Like I want to do one thing and I want to bring it out as much as possible. So the way we do it is we don't go cold call. We don't like reach out, that kind of thing. It's all inbound as well.
Okay.
But the way that I structure it is I make myself the expert in what I'm doing. So for me, I want to be the expert for Joshua Tree. So what I do is I just record myself. This one video gave me so many leads. I recorded a video going over, and it took me like 2 hours to make. Like I put a quick PowerPoint slide together, all the data about the Joshua Tree area, how much money you can make, what you should buy, what you shouldn't, and with AirDNA, and I just talked over it, and I posted in the Facebook groups, and I posted on YouTube. To this day, I get tons of leads. Like probably 80% of the leads that come in.
Wow. Just by you putting out a video on how to get leads, you get
no. How to buy in that area.
Got it.
So not only, I'm also an agent, so I can also double end those 2 times, right? So that's the way that I like to look at it, is like I rather be the expert in that space and then Joshua Tree area, and like that's talking about the area, talking about what to do there. People come to me because I'm the expert in the area, so they want me to manage the property.
Yeah, I love that. I forgot that you're an agent, so it kind of goes full circle.
I don't do agent work that much.
Oh, you don't? You don't?
I just have it for my flips to represent myself, and like maybe.
But if someone comes to you and they're like, "Hey, I own this STR in Joshua Tree. Will you list it for me?"
Yeah,
you would do that.
Yeah.
So it's all organic.
Yeah, it's all organic.
Yeah,
so.
I love that, dude. Cool, man. Well, tell me a little bit about your conference.
Yeah.
You're hosting this is year 2 of doing it. The first one was out in Vegas. I was not fortunate enough to attend, but heard great things. Tell me about this conference that you're hosting here in San Diego next month.
Dude, we're doing it bigger, man. We're doing it bigger than that last year, man. Like we're doubling. We said, you know what? Let's double it and let's make it happen. And so we're doing it in sunny San Diego, the best place. As you know, it's actually a block away from where we're at right now. It's in a really nice neighborhood of Gaslamp District, and it's going to be packed with speakers like Rich Summers talking about boutique hotel investing, which I'm so excited for you to talk about that. And just a bunch of other really good people like Avery Carl, Bill Faith, Natalie Palmer, Amanda Hahn. Like the biggest names in the short-term rental space are going to be there. It's going to be a hype event and a really great venue, 250 people only. So that we're still keeping it small.
Yeah,
still keeping it small, but we're probably going to sell out. Like it's going to be a really good event. So I'm excited for you to speak at it and make a legacy with this.
I love it, man. And then the venue that you're at right on the water, super nice. And then you're doing the kickoff party on the champagne yacht,
the VIP,
sax player, DJ, all that sort of thing.
And
so
guess whose charter that is? That's your connection.
So for the listeners, we host a yacht meetup about 4 times a year in the summer months, and we use my good friend Dave Champagne's yacht, the Champagne Yacht. So excited that you guys are doubling down on it.
He's a good guy, and I'm excited. The saxophone guy I heard was amazing, so I'm excited to get on the water and have the sunset. Like it's going to be a magical thing.
Dave's a really good guy, man. I want to get him on the podcast sometime. Really, really good dude, and he's going to take good care of you guys.
Awesome, dude. Amazing.
Cool, man. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate you coming on the show, dude.
Of course, man.
Super, super excited for the conference here next month. If the listeners want to go, where can they get tickets?
Dude, if you guys want tickets, it's going to be str-nation.com. Grab your tickets.
Appreciate you coming on, man. Super inspiring, especially for all the young folks behind you. And I'm a huge fan of everything you're doing, man.
Dude, I appreciate you, man, so much. I look up to you in a lot of ways, and I'm excited for what the future brings for all of us.
Dude, I appreciate you, man. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.